Hello friends, today is 24th January 2017 and we are going to discuss the articles of The Hindu. Today there is a bit problem in using the pen, so we are going to use this yellow color pointer as you see on the screen. So before starting the discussion, first let's have a look at the article which we are going to discuss. The first article is related to politics, so not so much important for the UPSC's perspective. Next article is about the Jinping. He gave the speech on the platform of World Economic Forum, so we are going to discuss this article. Next article is a main article you can see on the screen. It raises the two questions. One is universal basic income, and second is whether the government should adopt borrowing or not. One view says that actually it enhances the infrastructure and boosts the infrastructure, which may be beneficial for our future generations. And the second view says that our future generations would have to give the payments or interest payments of that borrowing which we are doing in current time. So we would discuss both the point of view. So next article is about a festival which is being organized in the Tamil Nadu. So only one or two points are important for that only, also for the prelim point of view, although not important for the mains point of view. And this article is about the role of media in the contemporary time. So we are going to discuss some few points we would extract out of this article. And the next article is about a inequality report was published by a institution, Oxfam. So we would also discuss this article. So let's start. Question may come like that. Trump sorry. Question may come like that. Trump's stance on various issues imparts an opportunity to China to assume a role global superpower. What do you think? Is China capable to assume that role? Try to understand this question. You know, in the recent time, Trump gave a lot of statements which was against the global world order. Like now, as you know, the US is global policeman. US is superpower. So US has direct influence about the current world order which is there presently. Now, according to the statements given by the Trump, USA would adopt the policies of protectionism and would go again in the isolation. So now, is there any role? Is it perfect time that China should now assume the role of global leader? So whether China is capable of this or not? So you have to give answer of this question. World Economic Forum question may come in the prelim exam. It is a Swiss non-profit foundation based in the Geneva, and every year in the Davos, a summit is being organized there in which various sections of the society like NGOs and political leaders and economists, they gather and try to get solution for the world economy. And next is Xi Jinping statement or speech. Actually, this speech signifies a lot of things. Now, according to one perspective, as Angela Merkel has assumed leadership of Western countries, as we saw in the European crisis and also in the migration crisis, she worked as a leader of the Western countries, mainly specifically European countries. So now, Xi Jinping speech at this platform of World Economic Forum signifies the same thing. Xi Jinping, what he said, he defended the current world economic order and he also defended the globalization. He said that countries must not adopt the policies in which they restrict the free flow of goods and services because it would be also harmful for them. And next is he also talks about changing the global economic structures. Sorry. And sorry. He says that there is a democratic deficit in the world economic structures like IMF and World Bank. So there is a need to give the inclusive representation to the newly industrialized countries and the emerging economies. And the next he talks about if migration is happening in the world today, it is not because of globalization. It is because of the instability in the Syria and instability in the Middle East and other countries. And to larger extent, Western countries are responsible for that. And he also says that globalization has been helpful in redistributing the incomes after the Cold War era. So we must also take care of that thing if we are going to criticize the globalization. So let's move to next article. Next article is about question may come like that. Critically analyze the statement with examples. Government should desist from the borrowing even more and preempting resources from the future generations. Context, as you know, the budget is going to be presented on 1st of Feb. So two extremes are there which article is going to discuss. As Ajit Patel says that government must abandon doing the borrowing because it may impact our future generations because they would have to pay the tax or interest payments on the borrowing which we are doing now. So also a few more importance because of the borrowing, because of the enhancing fiscal deficit, there may be the crowding out. What is crowding out? Crowding out when government adopts the policy of borrowing from the market. When government borrows from the market, then there is less less funds available for the private companies. So interest rates are enhanced because of this for the private companies, and if private companies are not able to borrow the funds from the market, they would not be able to establish the manufacturing units, and that's how the economic growth is impacted. And the next is, and the article says that any expenditure, if you are at the current stage, if you are doing any kind of expenditure, and just one exception that if you are not exploiting the natural resources, then it would take the resources or use the resources of today's world only, like labor and capital equipment. But we must not exploit the natural resources. If we are exploiting the natural resources which are non-renewable, then certainly it would impact the future generations. Otherwise, everything is okay. And next is, even it is good if we are doing a lot of borrowing now, and it would be, if it is boosting the infrastructure, then also it would be helpful for the future generations. Why? Because he's also giving the example of IITs, like even he's saying after independence, if we had borrowed the funds and had created some kind of infrastructure, then we would have been using that infrastructure now. So that's what he wants to say. So next is how government spending is beneficial. So take the example, if government is borrowing from the market, then what government will do with the funds? Government would invest that funds into the market, so people will get a lot of funds. So demand, if people are getting the funds, then they would invest that somewhere. So if they have the purchasing power, definitely the demand would be enhanced. Now private companies now have the opportunity to fulfill the demand which has been created by the investment done by the government. So that's how government spending is beneficial, not harmful. So Ajit Patel raised a point that interest rate would be enhanced for the private companies if government is borrowing from the markets. So article says that yes, it is true, but using the monetary policy like repo rate and reverse repo rate, we can manipulate that monetary policy so that funds are available easily for the private companies also. Next issue is about the universal basic income idea. Actually, this is a Western country's idea. A referendum was recently had in Switzerland, and in the referendum, it was asked from the Switzerland people that whether you want the universal basic income or not, and the people denied that. They said no, we don't want. And now, after demonetization, there have been demand from the many sections that government should implement this scheme, universal basic income, because a lot of jobs have been lost and people are suffering. So what is actually this? In this, we are giving minimum amount of money to the every citizen of our country. Doesn't matter whether it is mother or infant. We are giving this much amount, and this much amount is sufficient to provide the basic amenities to the people. But the article criticizes this idea due to many reasons. The first reason is, of course, there are a lot of people who are not poor. So it is the misallocation of the resources if we are giving this much money to persons who are not poor. And second thing is, it would demotivate the persons. Some persons would think that we are getting the money from the free money from the market, so why there is need to work. So 2-3 points are important. That's why instead of doing this, the article suggests that government should invest the funds to boost the infrastructure that would be also beneficial for the upcoming generations. So again, the article is linking to the upcoming generations. Next is, even after independence, our country went through the same debate, because our people were having a lot of expectations from the new government, because a country got the independence from the British Raj. So people were expecting that government would give them some kind of funds. But Nehru criticized that scheme, and Nehru said that no, we have to see what kind of future we want to make for us. If we are giving directly money to the people, then it may be beneficial for them for the short term, but longer term it would be harmful for them. So now we are again moving through the same debate. So now let's move to second article. Next article. Next article is not so important. Urur Olkut Kuppam Vija. This is a festival which is organized in fishing village of Chennai. A lot of things are done in this festival, like dance, music, and which are meant different things for different people. So not so much important, just you need to remember where it is organized. Let's move to next article. This is about the role of media in the contemporary time. Although the example which have been used here are not important for us, because the US examples have been taken, but still we can generalize those examples and can use in our answers, not only in answers but in essay also. So first the article says that in the Cold War era, when the Cold War was being going on, a lot of things were happening in the world, like espionage, a lot of killings and coups were happening, but media was not showing them. Media was just showing the political dealings of the political leaders. And the person who wrote the article, he said that, and we were watching the movies, and just example he's using, not so important. Next is now there has been the alleged interference of the Russian president in the US elections, and when this was asked from the Trump, he said that, so what, so kind of thing. And now the article says that even the Trump reaction, you can say that indicates that how much, what is going to happen in the upcoming time, and media has a role. Media has a role because of the media. Trump won the elections. The kind of publicity media gave to the Trump, and because of this, Trump won the elections, but media lost its dominance. And now you can see that, you can take the case that social media, how the social media is emerging these days. And even Trump is directly addresses his followers on the social media, not on the media. It is just because of the many reasons. Why? Because of the regulations. Mainstream media doesn't regulate perfectly, and it is regulated by themselves only, and there have been a lot of lacunas in the regulation. And also, sometimes they congratulate themselves, and self-criticism is rare. They never criticize themselves. So what is next? Next is about truth versus propaganda. If now USA is a superpower, it is not just because of the democracy, it is also because of the soft power. And there was a need of communication technology for spreading that soft power, and media has helped a lot in spreading that soft power. So sometimes media also, you can say that, inflict the propaganda in the world, and we are not able to distinguish what is the propaganda and what is the real news. And again, this issue is there with the social media also, and that's why the websites like Facebook and Twitter, they you can say that, deny themselves calling as the media, because they know that if we are calling ourselves as the media, then we would have to follow some kind of norms which they don't want to follow. So not many important points in this article, just 2 or 3 important points. Although question is important, if we this kind of question may come in the mains exam, but we would have to answer this question from our Indian perspective. Next is democratic deficit. This is the last article. A report was published recently by the Oxfam, and it was shown in that report that what kind of inequality exists in the world, and it was shown that 8 richest people in the world have the same wealth as 50% of the world have. And after that, critics argued that if kind of methodology they adopted, in which assumes that wealth is asset minus debt. By this measure, even if a poor Indian farmers with little debt and little asset can end up richer than a Wall Street bankers with a little asset and a larger student loan. So even the scenario is very dim in Indian perspective, you can say that, because the richest 1% Indians have the same wealth as 50% of the Indian population. So now again the article gives a lot of examples. First is one second. First is the example of Aristotle. What Aristotle told? Aristotle told that in a democracy, every citizen has a single vote, and if there is an inequality, then by using the power of voting, the democratic framework tries to redistribute the income and tries to inflict or bring the egalitarian society. And in oligarchy, totally opposite happens. In oligarchy, because oligarchy is the rule by the rich. So what happens there? Because there is a inegalitarian society, and rule is done by the rich people. So if they are getting elected, then because of the power of the money, they also try to influence the policies of government also. They also want to influence other sectors of the governance framework also. So what is next? Next is about the middle class. One page we have left, 1 second. Yes. Now the article says that if the constitution recognizes the kind of society and kind of conflicting classes are there in the society, then there is a stability in the country. Otherwise there are the conflicts, and that's what was done in the American constitution. Because the American constitution, when the US constitution was made, the society was egalitarian at that time, so middle class constitution was adopted. And the same thing happened, although the constitution of France was changed many times, but the same thing was happened in the French constitution also. So what is next? Next is way forward. When the society is middle class or it is egalitarian society, there is not much difference between the societies. Although the difference is not that much harmful, but if there is any difference and the rich people are able to influence the government policies, then this thing is very harmful for the democratic framework. So that's why the name of article is democratic deficits. So tomorrow we would discuss again, and again, because you can see that there was inconsistency in the discussion of this video. In the future we would try to maintain the consistency, and we would try to be more regular. So tomorrow we would discuss again. Thank you very much for discussion.